Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. Hello, my name is James and I'm 43 years old. I want to tell you about my near-death experience because I haven't told anyone about all that happened to me when I was dead twice. When I was a kid, I was quite active and would never sit inside and be lazy, preferring to go outside and do anything. I like sports and being outside. I didn't do drugs, drink alcohol, or smoke cigarettes. This cycle persisted until I had my first heart attack at the age of 25. I had another heart attack the next year, which is when I had my first NDE. I recall being in my mother's room as she was on her computer. I recall being in the ambulance with paramedics working on me 1 minute and talking with her the next. I assured them I was alright and inquired as to what they were doing and why they were all rushing around. It was perplexing, but as I was telling them, I was alright. My chest began to hurt. Then boom! I awoke once more. I was in front of a large structure. Actually, the word building is incorrect, yet it is difficult to convey. Tall pillars, similar to those found in ancient Roman temples, stood in front of the structure. The light seemed to come from everywhere, as if there were no source of light because it was everywhere. The front of the structure featured a massive doorway. There was no entrance, only an archway. My uncle, who died around 5 or 6 years ago, was standing alongside me when I looked at this edifice. He informed me that I needed to enter the building and that he would accompany me. I strolled with my uncle through this big coliseum, which was lined with massive pillars the entire way. We didn't say anything while we walked because it didn't seem necessary. I felt relaxed and didn't feel the need to be concerned. As I neared the center of the room, I heard my grandfather say, "This is not your time." We came to a halt and I opened my eyes. I was admitted to the hospital. The cardiac specialist implanted a stent in my body and told me that I was fortunate to be alive. For 14 minutes, I had been clinically dead. Over the next 10 years, I was tormented by health issues, including more heart attacks, many knee surgeries, a neck fusion, and the entire lower back being fused. Then I suffered another massive heart attack. This time, I awoke on a gorgeous, rolling field on the edge of a large pond. As I looked around, I noticed the same massive pillar structure on top of a hill in the back left corner of this area. There was a waterfall that seemed to appear out of nowhere and fell into the other side of this big pond. As I looked around, I noted that there was no disruption, such as splashing or ripples where the water was falling into the pond. It was extremely lovely. There was also a tree line on the back right side of this field that extended all the way out, almost to the middle of the field. This tree line is significant. I noticed my uncle again as I looked around. I never saw his mouth move during our entire conversation. He just kept that smile. It seemed more like his voice was implanted directly into my soul. "Hello again," he replied, smiling at me. I recall giggling as he raised his arms and inquired, "Do you like it?" in reference to my surroundings. "Yes, I do," I replied. "This is where we're going to do our fishing," he remarked, lowering one of his arms and motioning towards the pond. When I looked down, I noticed that I was about an inch over the surface of the water. I peered down into the pond and noticed huge fish swimming around. When I returned my gaze to him, he motioned for me to join him on the opposite side. "There's something waiting for you," he continued. I immediately felt this sensation throughout my entire body. The closest I can describe the sensation is love, yet with that sensation comes endless knowledge. This revelation made me extra happy because it told me who was waiting for me. I used to have agonizing pain whenever I moved or sat for lengthy periods of time. But when I died and went to the other side, I felt neither agony or depression. I was overjoyed. This isn't the same as saying I'm so thrilled because I acquired a new car or because Haagen-Dazs ice cream has produced a new chocolate flavor. This was the kind of happiness that felt like all of my happy times blended into one persistent sensation of pure delight. When I say we walked, the word walking is perhaps not the best one, so I didn't feel any discomfort or tiredness from moving when I was there. I knew who was waiting for me and where I needed to go right away. My uncle and I began walking or gliding over this field, moving forward the tree line in the back right corner. The trees were tall, although not as tall as a sequoia. It was covered in autumn-colored leaves. We observed a home when we got to the edge of the tree line that stopped us about halfway through the field. The magnificent two-story house has a porch. As I approached the house's corner to gaze over the other side, I noticed that it was linked to a truck. The house was not only being dragged by the truck, but it appeared to be in the truck's bed. It was as if someone could drive the truck and steal the house. But when I saw the truck, everything made sense. It was a dual in green. A dual is larger than a standard pickup truck and is typically used to tow fifth-wheeled trailers. I returned to the house's porch, walked to the door, and knocked. I knew exactly who would open it. I just knew it was going to be my father, who had died a few years prior. I knew it in every fiber of my existence. But before he could, I heard another familiar voice behind me. It was my grandfather, who died about the same time as my father. He was the same grandfather who pulled me from there the previous time I died. He appeared almost this time. I can't say I'm angry because what I felt was concern. It seemed like I was a child doing something risky, and my parents hurried up and grabbed my hand, shouting, "Never do that again. Do you realize how dangerous that is? We might have lost you." I believe the best way to describe it is a worrying scolding. I didn't see him, but that's how his voice sounded. He said it again, but this time it seemed like he was speaking to his son, my uncle. "He's not done yet," he chided. "He must return." As I was being lifted up, I felt my grandfather's hand clutch my arm. When I opened my eyes, I was laying on a hospital bed, surrounded by nurses and physicians. I had a couple follow-up appointments with this cardiac doctor, who was hovering over me when I awoke. "Mr. B, you're the luckiest man I've ever seen," he added. I assumed he was going to inform me that you were here and that I needed to adjust my diet, etc. No. He said I had been clinically dead for 27 minutes and they had been working on me the entire time. He stated that he had placed the defibrillator down and stated, "I'm calling it." That indicated they were abandoning their efforts to resurrect me. He goes on saying, "Mark down, time of death." I murmured as I set down the paddles and looked up at the clock. The heart monitor beeped once as he tried to speak the word death. He stated, "Huh, let's give it one more shot." As they shocked me again, my eyes flew open wide, looked around the room, and attempting to move. "Oh my God," exclaimed one nurse, while another added, "He must have a guardian angel watching over him." He also informed me that the defibrillator had shocked me 13 times. The burns on my chest were proof. I returned to the same location after dying twice. Both times, I was greeted by the same person. The same individual dragged me out of there twice. Because each moment was different, it wasn't as if my brain was attempting to show me the same thing repeatedly. When I died, it showed me exactly where I was heading. It also demonstrated that I had led a good life, because I'm sure the experience would have been very different if I hadn't. The first time I died, I thought the corridor of pillars I was traveling down was leading me to someone very important. But the first time I went to meet my father, it felt different, as if it was more significant. Regardless of what skeptics say, my NDE was true. My point of view cannot be changed. One more thing. I'm looking for a brilliant artist that can sketch what I saw both times I died. I don't have any money to compensate this individual, but I would appreciate it tremendously. Unless there's a method to be with the artist and make real-time changes, I predict it will take a few tries.